Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Teresa and you're very welcome to Releases and Rants. It is the weekly episode in which we round up the good, the bad and the whatever of the new makeup releases of this last week. But a massive thank you to everyone who has tagged me in content, because as you guys know, I only focus on the stuff that you guys want to talk about. So a huge thank you to everyone who has tagged me. I'm going to be displaying your names right now. I so appreciate it. But before we actually get into this, there's been news. I hate talking about it because the whole thing with Palestine and Israel is just so incredibly heart-wrenchingly sad. But Huda has made very, very clear that she is very pro-Palestine, and she has even ceased trade within Israel. And she put this up on her Instagram. She said, "It's been a month of immense suffering in Gaza, and unfortunately things are getting worse. It's important that we always stand on the side of the oppressed and use our platform to shed light on any injustice. We cannot stand by and pretend like this is not happening. Our Huda beauty brands, including Huda Beauty, Carli and Wishful, will be donating $1 million to humanitarian organizations in Gaza. This is only because of you that we are able to make this donation, so thank you for your support. Together we can bring change." That is such a massive thing for a brand to do. Brands often take huge chances when they're making these sort of political statements. They can end up losing followers, but I feel like this is one of those things that it's like you're on the right side of history, you know. Just an incredible sort of a thing to see, and it makes me very glad that I recently bought the Huda Pretty Grunge palette. So yeah, I'm all here for that. But the first thing that we're discussing is Klarity Cosmetics, and they came out with 12 new shades of lipsticks. They're $16 each, and they come in various shades, all the way from nudes to reds to pinks to purples, and they're $16 each, but you could get the bundle of 12 for $185 if you so wish. So they come in these gorgeous little kind of sleek components. They look very, very nice. I'm assuming there's a sort of a magnetic component to them that clips that in place. They're beautiful, they're pigmented. I love the look of Naughty Nude because it is just such an unusual neutral shade. I don't see many brands that have kind of a nude that is quite that way. Do I feel like they have a good shade range here? Yeah, they absolutely do. I think they've done very well for their first launch of some bullet lipsticks. They have liquid lipsticks in their repertoire, so I believe this is the first time that they've done bullets. To come out with 12 quite interesting shades, that's really, really great, but there's obviously room then for extension. There's definitely some room for more neutrals, some more pinky tones. I'd love a few more reds. Definitely interested in these. I think they're quite interesting and quite a good price as well. I mean, we're talking about $16 per bullet, and if you're an MUA and you're looking for those sort of bullet lipsticks, obviously you might go for the bundle price of 12 for the $185. Now, I was looking into it in terms of ingredients. They are vegan and cruelty free. That's what it says over on their website, but you're looking at things like mineral oils, there's petrolatum, there's squalene, there's shea butter. So it does look like we're getting a lot of hydrating materials in there that are going to be quite kind of moisturizing. So that is really, really great to know if you don't like something that is too matte, which is quite interesting because they have said that these are matte bullet lipsticks, but they're matte just in the sense of how they look on the lip, but they're not going to leave you feeling matte, which I think is actually quite nice. I'm definitely interested in this. There's also olive oil in them, which, I mean, there's a lot of moisturizing agents in that, so for sure, definitely very interesting. Now, I haven't picked them up yet because I mean, I can't financially right now. If you guys have been watching, I totally lost my mind recently. I bought way more stuff than I needed. You know, it is what it is. So I'm trying to cut back and not be quite so bananas about it, but I am an affiliate with the brand. I do have a code, it'll get you 10% off, blah blah blah, whatever. It's just my name. You can use it if you're planning on getting these. I do think they're absolutely fabulous. I have some lip liners from them, which I do really, really enjoy. I like their liquid lipsticks as well. So I feel like this is the natural evolution for them. It's nice to see a brand kind of going beyond just eyeshadows. So they do seem to be branching out from that. Personally, I'd love to see them do some foundations at some point. That could be very, very interesting. But anyways, when I put it to you guys, 38% of you loved it, 51% said not for me, while 11% said that you prefer preferred some liquid lipsticks. But it's not just these bullet lipsticks that they're coming out with. They also announced via video that they have something new coming for Black Friday. So it looks like there's two palettes, one of which is a 10 pan and the other is a 15 pan. So obviously we're going to be looking at differences in prices, but we don't know yet. It's apparently coming out for Black Friday and the video looks fabulous. They haven't swatched it, but the video itself kind of shows you them kind of angled in lots of different lights. There's some multi-chromes, there's some fabulous sparkles and shimmers, and I just love the richness of them. I feel like they have a good level of depth across both of these palettes, but there's like some nice light shades in there. Are they evenly distributed? Not really. If you look at the top palette, for instance, you have that lovely lilac purple, which is the lightest shade, and there's not really any other like light mattes in there, and everything else is quite like deep toned. Then you're looking at the bottom palette as well, there's like one light shade which is that sort of beigey biscuity colour, and then the rest are kind of that little bit deeper. Maybe that coral shade is a little bit kind of mid-toned, but in general I find this with Klarity, they do a lot of like mid-tone to deep palettes, which makes sense because this is a POC brand, so they are obviously going to do a lot of that, because if you do very light colours they just end up being ashy. But when they do those sort of light colours, you know that they are going to be very pigmented. They're going to show up, absolutely no problem. So I don't have much kind of doubt as to how they will turn up. I think these are really interesting. I cannot wait to see some swatches on this because I feel like this will be like really quite interesting to look at. There's something about the second palette in particular that reminds me an awful lot of their Apocalypse palette, which was their Halloween palette from last year, which was discontinued. I don't believe they brought that back or are planning on bringing this back. So I feel like this would be a really great like alternative if you have a little bit of FOMO about missing out on that. I feel like this would be a really good sort of alternative. So very smart for them to do that, in my opinion. But they only kind of showed this in the last kind of couple of hours, so I have no idea what you guys think yet because I've just put it to you guys in my stories. So I'm going to show you the stats now. The next thing that we have to talk about is more of like a public service announcement, because I know not everyone watches my shorts and some of you guys wait to watch releases and rants, but I feel that I needed to talk about this. It's the brand Painted, and the thing is it's by James Charles, so he hasn't like attached his name to it, so at first glance you wouldn't know that this has anything to do with him. So you could be very easily fooled into potentially getting this unless you looked at Trend Mood's comments, which are all commenting on this, because Trend Mood is the only person that was kind of commenting on this or publishing about this, mainly because she gets paid to do these particular things. Anyways, this is the basic canvas palette, and I mean at this point, if you don't know about James Charles, a TLDR version is he's essentially a predator for underage individuals, and I mean there's not much else to say beyond that. Just a lot of predatory behaviour. He's so incredibly dishonest and weaselly and just not a very nice person, is essentially the long and the short of it. He's also kind of said in videos recently that he lied about palettes that he's endorsed in the past, that he said that they were incredible but he hated them, and it's like, dude, like you had people, because a lot of your audience is really young, which I mean that's questionable in and of itself given all of the accusations, allegations and the things that he's admitted to. But these are people that don't have like the same disposable income as like an older audience, and you're telling them to go off and buy things that you don't believe in? Like, come on now, that's really like shitty, you know? But anyways, he also previously said with his Morphe Painted palette, which was just, I mean, all of us got it at some point. I think my one is still knocking around in there, and I just look at it every so often and go, oh, for fuck's sake, I need to get rid of it. I really do, but I'm very bad at like hoarding things. That's a me issue. But he said before when he came out with that, oh, it's the only palette you'll ever need. And in his like launch video of this, he was like, I know I said this before, but like we also need a basic palette. Do we, James? Do we? Because I'm not going to pay $55 for a basic palette like this. Not when you've had a launch with those sort of liquid paints things that did not come to critical acclaim. They weren't really universally beloved unless they were your friends who were saying like, oh my god, I love these, and people making excuses for the bad pigmentation. I'm not going to pay $55 for that. I'm definitely not going to be buying anything that is associated with James Charles, because if I did that, it's me putting money into his pocket and supporting him. But part of why I want to talk about this is a lot of people aren't going to know that it's his brand because it's called Painted. And it's not something that is like easily linked with him. For me, when I think of Painted, I think of Paint by Raven, you know? Like that's what I think of. And I think he tried to disassociate himself from his brand as much as possible to kind of get away from those controversies, so that when you look up James Charles, the brand isn't the first thing that comes up, you know? So that when you look up the brand, then Painted, he's not the first thing to come up. So it's smart from like a marketing strategic point of view, but like, oh, as a human being, he's just terrible. And speaking of terrible, the palette is terrible. It is so dull, uninspiring. 2016 called They Don't Want the Palette Back. They want it gone. It's just terrible. There's no real depth in this. It's very Caucasian. He has no interesting sort of formulas in there, so I've no idea why he's asking for $55, presumably to make money back on the terrible launch of those terrible painty things. And then, I mean, he has these terrible brushes that when I saw them, I thought that they were cotton buds. It was the first thing that came to my mind. Absolutely dreadful to have the audacity to ask for $55 for this with all of the allegations against him, and he's never coming forward and saying anything about this. He's just an incredibly problematic individual. In fact, I don't know why he didn't call his brand problematic. Actually, problematic is being very, very kind. He's beyond that at this point. If you can't tell, I obviously will not be buying this. I would sooner give up makeup forever. I know that is a huge statement, but I would sooner give up makeup forever than ever go near any of his brands. Yeah, I didn't even bother putting it to you guys because I'll be honest, I wanted to minimize the amount that he was on my social platforms because I was like, ugh, whatever. I feel like in general, a lot of us would just be like, ugh, because I could have put down the option of like, don't support a P3DO, but I was like, ugh, let's not get into that. But it's just a terrible release. Thankfully, however, we have a gorgeous palette cleanser in the form of Glaminatrix Cosmetics, and this is their Fairy Lights palette. It is retailing for €36.95. It is magnetic 26mm pans. It is, of course, vegan and cruelty-free, and it has this beautiful sparkly formula, 5 of which are like these intense sparkly shimmers, and one of them is a sparkly holographic silver. I cannot even cope. I'm going to show you some of the videos that I've found of this as well, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I think for that price it is fabulous. I was talking about the Urban Decay Moon Dust palettes that came out a while ago, which by the way never made it to Ireland. It seems that everyone over in the US and Canada just bought them all up and we can't get them. They haven't come to Beauty Bay, they haven't come to Boot. Look fantastic, any of those, they're just not available. But I can get this instead, which is way cheaper and has way more interesting formulas. And look at the pigment on these. I really appreciate that they've swatched these against lighter skin tones and against deeper skin tones, and I mean you can really see how incredibly vibrant they are. I've dealt with Glaminatrix in the past in terms of their customer service, and for me it's a 10 out of 10. I really appreciate the fact that they are so receptive to the needs of their customers. They've managed to keep the price down quite a bit. I did end up getting this because I'm stupid. Could I financially afford it? No, but let's not talk about my poor decision making. I got this and I've bought the Rich Romantic because I was like, screw it. Glaminatrix is one of those sort of brands that I have just totally fallen in love with. Absolutely love them. It is fantastic to see an Australian indie brand of this particular caliber in operation, and I'm just so excited that they're having the success that they are having. But it's absolutely stunning, and I cannot wait to get my greasy little paws on this. I feel like it'll be a very beautiful swatching Sunday for this. It's such a great time of the year as well to come out with this because it's just so Christmassy, holiday time, and like it is called Fairy Lights. It's literally about the holiday season, and they were very smart in that they went for quite like neutrally tones. So this is going to be very versatile for a lot of people. It's going to pick a lot of their demographic because, you know, in the past they have done like very daring color stories, a lot of bright interesting color combinations. I think this is very, very smart for them. They also have the, like, I mean, everything about them is just like very luxe, like even down to the packaging itself is just so I mean, sexy. It is. Like, it is. There's nothing else to actually say about it. I cannot wait to get my little paws on this. Could I do one look out of it? No, but it's going to be one of those, like, maybe take a holographic shimmer, shove it onto my lids, do a nice wing and be like, right, I'm off. And then have everyone go, oh my God, Teresa, what is on your eyelids? Because that's really all I want at the end of the day, is for people to acknowledge me in some way. I'm here for it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And when I put it to you guys, 37% of you loved it, 44% said not for me, and 19% of you said, I want to roll in those shimmers. And we have another holiday collection, and this time it's from Oden's Eye. And what they have done is they have brought back their holiday collection from last year, which included the Merry Christmas palette and the Christmas Eve palette, which I think is very smart because that was incredibly popular. They were meant to be limited edition, so I know a few people are probably like, damn, I went and got it second hand and I paid through the nose for it. But I think this is really great. I don't love limited edition palettes because it fosters the whole FOMO thing, but they're re-releasing those, which is very, very smart. But they've also come out with 2 new palettes, and they're €41.95 each. There's the Snow Dream and then there's the Hey Reindeer palette. But if you haven't gotten the 2 previous palettes, you can bundle the whole thing together for €142.95, so you'll make a saving of about €25. So let's talk about the Snow Dream palette first. It is basically the paler sister of the Merry Christmas palette. It looks very, very pretty. There's 8 mattes, there's 1 holographic silver, and there's 7 shimmers. You can definitely see how this could be used in conjunction with last year's one as well. I appreciate that they haven't gone with like the really traditional Christmassy colours here. Like, yes, they have their red and their green, but beyond that, there's nothing here that screams Christmas, with the exception of the embossing and the actual packaging. So I feel like this is very versatile outside of Christmas itself. I really like Oden's Eye formula. I find their mattes are really good. I quite enjoy their shimmers as well. For me, however, the colour story of this isn't as cohesive as I might necessarily like. I can think of a few things that I would do with this, but I feel like there's kind of a weird mix of mattes to shimmers here, and some of the mattes are a little bit redundant. Like, there's like a very beige and then there's like a brown, but there's a white, so I could have just used the white to blend out the brown, and then there's like a sagey pale green and then a deeper green, but again, could have used that white to just, you know, sheer that out. So I feel like there was a couple of shades there that weren't entirely necessary. They could have kind of changed them around a little bit, but that's me being very pernickety. Unfortunately, they don't have any sort of swatches up right now, but as you're watching, the palette itself will be available. If not now, then in a couple of hours, so you can get your hot little mitts on it. And I would imagine they'll probably have some swatches up by that time. I think this makes sense in line with last year's collection. You can kind of see how it's following through. Then the Hey Reindeer, again, it reminds me very much of last year's sort of Christmas Eve or Merry Christmas palette as well. It is a much kind of lighter version of that, and there's something about it that reminds me of like the Hello Ghost one that they came out with as part of their Halloween. Again, there's nothing about this that's like necessarily a traditional Christmas, which I think is such a fantastic idea. It looks very, very interesting to me. Like, I like a lot of the individual shades in this for sure. And then when we're looking at the actual breakdown of what the shadows themselves are, there's 8 mattes, there's 1 multichrome, which is candy cane, and 7 sparkling shades. So they are giving you a decent amount of bang for your buck. I think it's really quite pretty. I do wish that they had some swatches of this. I think that pale shade, which is Cider, such an unusual like shade to pair with the name, because Cider you'd normally kind of go with like a golden sort of a shade. I love that they've got a lot of like cranberry tones in here, but then also like pops of blue. It's very, very unusual, but again, pairs very nicely with last year's one as well. Again, for me though, it doesn't necessarily kind of go in with the sort of color story that I might like myself, you know, but I think this is smart and it links in with what they did last year. So like I said as well, they're coming out with their Merry Christmas palette, which I gotta say, that's a little bit more me, and I never got it last year. So there is part of me that's thinking, you didn't get it last year, Teresa, so you're not going to get it this year either, so leave it be. But it does look absolutely stunning. And I mean, the formula is usually fantastic. And again, they also have their Christmas Eve palette, which again, beautiful. There's some lovely deep blues in there as well. But when I put it to you guys and I showed you the Snow Dream palette, 37% of you loved it, 20% said that it goes well with last year's palettes. The Hey Reindeer palette did similarly, 36% of you loved it, 14% said that you needed to see swatches. And then when I showed you the re-releases, 22 and 24% of you loved it, and then between 5 and 8% said that you were annoyed because it was meant to be limited edition, whereas the remainder, rather large proportion, 41 to 44%, said that you were glad that they brought it back. Something is definitely in the air when it comes to influencers and their brands, because Jeffree Star is also coming out with his collection. It's the Scorpio collection, and it's meant to basically be all about him, what a surprise, and his birthday. It's coming out on November 15th, which is the exact same day as James Charles's launch, which I don't think is a coincidence. I think James Charles did that to screw with Jeffree Star, which honestly, fair enough. The two of them are like, I mean, I'm not into either of them, so their little petty argument is none of my business. But anyways, this is all just a bit strange, and I couldn't get any proper decent pictures beyond the screen grabs from YouTube, so I apologize for that. But anyways, let's talk about the Scorpio palette first. That's going to retail for $62. This is just so weird to me. And by the way, he's put himself in a nip on the palette. There's a point where you're like, when is this like being confident in your body and celebrating your body and then just being narcissistic? He's had himself on a lot of his palettes now, including, I think, was it the Gothic Beach, which was, by the way, so strange. Feels like he's very much run out of ideas. There's nothing about this that screams Scorpio to me. Not that I'm really into the zodiac signs, but this is just, I don't know, he's definitely lost his touch, and I can't tell if it's just the fact that I no longer support him or if it legitimately that he's lost his touch. But like, this is so dull. The only thing that I find interesting is actually the wig that he is on. Like, literally, the swatches look okay. There's nothing there that you're like, oh my god, it's amazing, because I mean, I personally feel like he doesn't seem to be doing anything wildly interesting. I mean, I can't tell because I haven't gotten any of his stuff in the last however long, but it looks like super dated, you know, 2016, 2017. It seems like the formulas haven't advanced much. He hasn't tried to come out with any sort of new kind of consistencies of shadows. Like, indie brands are really outperforming him, and the colour story in general is just so jumbled. There's like isolated shades in there that I'm like, okay, these are kind of interesting, like that kind of pop of like a minty blue or minty green or whatever the fuck it is. That's kind of interesting. Some of the purples, they look nice. But in all, it is just so disjointed and so all over the place that I don't know where to look. I don't know what it is. I can't figure out how these are going together, and I'll be honest, I don't think he does either, right? It is so weird. But he's also coming out with Shiny Trap lipsticks, and they're going to be $20 each, and it does look like there's quite a few shades in there, about 7 in total, and he's very helpfully swatched them on his hand. That's not how you swatch lipsticks, but it looks like he's put like that sort of embossing onto them of the Scorpio. Again, there's nothing about this that like necessarily makes me think of Scorpios, or the maybe like the red and the brown, but that grey is really weird. That's going to make people look like a corpse, and not necessarily in a fun and interesting way. Like, we're past Halloween now. $20 like is rather inexpensive, and I feel like he's trying to bring his costs down or his prices down, because I mean, his brand isn't doing great. If you are ever over on Beauty Bay, you will notice that his stuff is like frequently in the reduced section, and that was never the case several years ago, as was pointed out actually under a video of mine recently. So I'm like, ooh, it is weird just to see how much the brand has fallen. He also has the Liquid Star eyeshadows. They're $20 each, and they come in 6 different shades. So it looks like one of them is like a shimmer and the rest are kind of matte. I mean, they're all right. There's nothing wildly interesting to me about them. I definitely feel like I've come across much better formulas than that. I mean, I like that sagey green, but that's because I like sagey greens. None of this is cohesive or makes sense to me. I mean, I kind of get why he is a pink, because like, he's weirdly obsessed with pink, which, you know, you do you. I'm the same with green. He of course has also come out with Scorpio Venom lip oil for $20. seriously, I just need the trend of lip oil to stop. Like, also, how late is he to the game? That is quite funny. The only thing that I think is kind of cute are like those mirrors. They're $30 each. So he has like two sort of meat cleavers, I guess because he's going around killing the yaks with the meat cleavers. Who knows? Ooh. As a vegetarian, that gives me the ick, but as like somebody who's like into alternative culture, I do like the cleaver thing. But the dog mirror, that's so cute. It's called the Diva Lynn mirror. I do think that is adorable. So if another brand comes out with that, let me know. I think that's adorable. He also has the makeup bag, which I gotta say, I actually like the colour of that. I think it's really nice. It's quite chic. I won't be getting it, but there you go. And then there's a yak plushie of all things. I remember when he like went off to Star Ranch and he was like, I'd never kill my yaks. And then like 2 or 3 months later, he was like, yeah, I'm killing my yaks. How is that makeup store going where you can get makeup and yak meat and fucking plushies of the thing that you plan on eating for dinner? I don't know. This is all so strange to me. I love animals though, so I am like, I love plushies in general. I have a really big thing for them, so I try not to get them because if you saw my makeup room tour, you would have seen that there's like kind of plushies like all over the place. I am really into them. But in general, like I just, Jeffree Star is not my thing. And I feel like his brand just is in a little bit of a nosedive at this point, and I can't really see any way of him getting out of it. He is working away over on TikTok at the moment, which is a whole other issue in and of itself because he's hanging out with Eugenia Cooney and like, I mean, I'm not even going to get into that because that is just so triggering for me, but it is just, I mean, there are no words. It's so interesting just to see how much things have changed on YouTube and who were the heavy hitters and now how they've gone so out of favor. And there are consequences for actions for some, not for all. I mean, look at James Charles. He's able to do whatever the heck he seems to want, but it must be that Jeffree Star's personality is more abrasive and that's why the consequences seem to actually stick with him. But speaking of those consequences, let's talk about what you guys actually thought of it. So when I showed you the palette, 9% of you loved it and 55% said that you don't support Jeffree. When I showed you the lipsticks, 11% loved it, 61% said you don't support him. When I showed you the liquid eyeshadow and the lip oil, 14% loved it, 61% then said that they don't support him. And then when I showed you the other accoutrements, those cute little mirrors, etc., 9% of you loved it and 62% said that you don't support J-Star. So there's a lot going on there. But there's even more influencer brands, and this time it's from Carli Bybel. And this makes sense to me because Carli has done an awful lot of collaborations in the past. Probably one of her most notable ones was with Anastasia Beverly Hills several years ago, and she's quite beloved over on the YouTube platform. Beautiful girl, absolutely stunning. So she's finally come out with her own brand. It's called the Beauty Bybel. She of course has said the obligatory thing of it's been years in the making, but she's come out with this OG palette, 18 color eyeshadow palette for $39. These are all, by the way, vegan and cruelty free. So the palette itself, I just feel it's way too safe, very Caucasian. It's not going to suit people who are of a deeper complexion, and I think that's not the wisest of moves at this point. And I mean, when you have brands like Sydney Grace who are able to give you a palette with the same sort of tones for like a light and then a deep skin tone, why not try and do that? Like when you're an influencer and you know about all these brands, you have so many ideas that could be taken. Like, I'm not saying like steal people's ideas, but why not draw some inspiration there? I mean, the only shade that kind of pops out to me is that sort of a lavender shade, and that's presumably to pop in the inner corner of the eye. The rest, I mean, it could have been edited down. It's like sort of like a very weird scale of like, how do you like your tea? Or how do you even like your toast? It's not for me, and I feel like $39 is a bit excessive for something that is quite a basic sort of a palette. I do wish her all the luck, but it's definitely not for me. Then the lip glosses that she has, they are $18. It looks like she has a couple of different shades. The components, as I said before, remind me massively of Lois Cosmetics, so I'm wondering if it's come from the same place. That could be quite interesting. I'd love to know. So, I mean, the shades themselves look okay. They have no swatches though, so I don't know. I'm going to stick with my Lois Cosmetics ones, but I feel like she's gone for some very safe kind of ones. There's something about this that feels very like tea party to me, like they're about to have like high tea. I'm not against it, I think it's quite cute. Then the lipsticks are also being made available for $20 each. They're matte velvet. There's a lot of shades here, or not a lot of shades. There's 2 shades there that are quite duping each other. Actually, there's another 2 that are kind of duping each other, which is kind of insane that you come out with 6 shades and have it so that there's a bit of overlap between them. Now, I don't think you should come out with a whole chunk of lipsticks when you're coming out with lipsticks for the first time, because you need to leave room for expansion. But this isn't wildly inclusive to a lot of different people, so like this is very leaning towards like a paler skin tone, because some of those shades are gonna read in a very odd way on deeper skin tone in my opinion. But she's also coming out with some highlighters, and they're going to be retailing for $19. I mean, they look fine. They're very like traditional sort of highlighters, very like high shine. There's nothing that seems to be like very unique or different about them. Like if you said to me this is a Jouer highlighter, I'd be like, yeah, okay, kind of looks like it. I will say her packaging looks really beautiful. I love the lilac and the lavendery sort of a shade of it. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I do like that at least she's got like a deeper highlighter in there, so there's a sort of a nod to inclusivity. I'd like to see how these actually swatch on the face. Like how are they going to wear? Do they leave any sort of a cast? Because that would be quite important to me. And then finally they have the matte lip liners, and they're $16 each, and obviously they are in line then with the lipsticks that she came out with as well. I mean, it's fine. It does look like they're sharpenable, which I appreciate, because I don't love, you know, the push-up liners. They kind of annoy me. I mean, they look grand. I don't get excited about lip liners, apart from the e.l.f. ones last week, which were $2, and I was like, okay, that's kind of bananas. That like that's really, really great. I mean, it does feel, when I'm looking at this collection overall, that it's quite dated. It feels very stuck in an old era of YouTube, you know, 2017, 2018. There's like nothing modern or fresh about this, in my opinion. In saying that, I feel that this very accurately represents Carli Bybel's own makeup aesthetic. She likes this more kind of classic 2016, 2017 era of makeup and beauty, so you know it's come from her, it's not come from somebody else. So I appreciate the fact that she's sticking with her aesthetic and not really bowing down to somebody else's will, so that's grand. It's not for me. I won't be getting anything from the collection unless, I don't know, something really, really interesting pops up in the future. When I showed you guys the palette, 12% of you loved it, 11% said that you liked that they're vegan and cruelty free. When I showed you the lipsticks, 20% of you loved it, 8% said that you prefer liquid lipsticks. The glosses, 10% of you loved it, 13% said that you needed to see them in action. The highlighters, 25% of you loved them, so that did quite well. And 17% said that you love that they're vegan and cruelty free. And then the matte lip liners, 18% of you loved it, and 5% said that you're looking forward to shade extensions. Then we have Beauté Bar, who are coming out with another eyeshadow palette. Now, I love Beauté Bar. I really enjoy their stuff, but for me, it feels like they've been coming out with an awful lot lately, and it's kind of hard for me to keep up. Whew. Anyways, this is their Bejeweled palette. It's coming sometime in mid-November. I believe it's like around the 23rd or 17th. Who knows? I'll put the information down below. I don't know what price this is going to be yet, so it's probably going to be expensive when you look at that, plus the shipping. For me, this is all a little bit too around the same tone. Like, yes, I get that it's jewel tones, it's bejeweled, but I would have liked a few more kind of light shades to blend stuff out, or even just have like a big white pan in there. I feel like when they're coming out with as much as what they're coming out with, it gets very, very difficult to keep up with things. And I do enjoy them. I think they're fantastic quality, but when you're just pumping out as many releases as they're pumping out, it becomes very, very difficult to keep up. And I mean, this has happened to brands in the past, you know, the likes of Anastasia Beverly Hills, where people have essentially lost goodwill for the brand because they were coming out with too much. And I do fear that's kind of where Beauté Bar are going at the moment. I will say, I suspect that when I see swatches of this, I will be quite pleasantly surprised. They usually get me with that. But it's not for me on this particular occasion. It looks gorgeous, don't get me wrong. There's definitely elements of this that are beautiful, like those blue shimmers are fabulous. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to be skipping on this one, I'm afraid. When I put it to you guys, 30% of you said that you loved it, 20% said that it depended on the price. And then the very last thing that we're talking about is Fenty Beauty. And it's really weird because this isn't on Fenty Beauty's own website, it is just on Ulta. For now, who knows, they may have taken it off. This is the Glitty Lid Shimmer Liquid Eyeliner, and there's 3 shades, they're $24 each. They say there's intense colour payoff in a range of amped up metallic jewel tones, long wear, lightweight formula that resists sweat and humidity. So it comes in amethyst, which is a royal purple, chrome at me, which is a silver, and peacocky, which is a deep teal, and they're each $24. I gotta say, I quite like this because it's been a while since we've seen any sort of eye makeup from Fenty. Like, they came out with like some shadow sticks and they came out with some mascara recently, but like their eyeshadows in general don't do that well, but I think this could be quite interesting for them. I like these, and I think the shades in general are really, really good, particularly at this time of year. They look stunning on. The silver is like really editorial when it's on the skin, and it looks like they have a really nice sort of a sleek little applicator for the eyeliner itself. The blue looks fabulous and very royal. I wonder how much you're going to have to build it up to get to that level of opacity, but it is absolutely stunning. The purple, I think that might be my favorite. It's definitely a very, very royal purple there. It looks stunning. $24, like I said, it's not bad. I will be looking out for that when that comes to Boots. I don't think the price is too bad for that, and I am definitely intrigued, and I do enjoy a bit of Fenty, and it feels like it's been a while since I've seen anything that I really wanted from them. But when I put it to you guys, 16% of you loved it and 30% said that you want to see more shades. But my gorgeous friends, that's it for this particular week. Thank you so much for watching. I know we didn't have a huge amount to discuss this week, apart from the weird influencer brands, but there you go, they're keeping us on our toes. This is my favorite comment from this week. It's from Nancy Zorovich 7281, and she said, "You made me cry laugh so many times during this video." Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate all of you guys commenting down below. I may not always comment back because it's very difficult for me to get time to do so, but I always read them, so I so appreciate it. But my gorgeous friends, that's it. That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do please like, comment and subscribe, and do please share, because sharing is caring, except of course for STDs, in which case, wrap it up, don't be gross. But that's it. That's the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.